get going very soon. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes. No more people are dialing in. In the meantime, Rose, could you unmute Bryant Daniels, please?
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good evening, Bryant. I promise.
If you hear a toddler melting down in the background, I apologize.
That's all right. This will be a nice short meeting, I think. We're going to start at 6:33. I think that's enough time to let more people get in. Okay, folks, I think we're going to get going now. It's almost 6:33. So welcome everyone to this month's Roosevelt Island Committee meeting of CB8. I'm Paul Crickler, the chair. I'm delighted to introduce first off on our first agenda item, Bryant Daniels from RIOC. Bryant, over to you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Bryant Daniels, Communications Director from RIOC. Nice to see everybody here tonight. Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. Before we get started, I know Paul had some things he wanted me to touch on. I just want to make mention of two events coming up. First is our holiday tree lighting. It's this Friday at 6 p.m., meditation lawn. It's always a really fun, nice annual event. We hope you guys can make it. Bring the family, bring the kids out. We'll have performances from MSTDA and the Girl Scouts and the Youth Center. There'll be a jazz band. There will be some music and some giveaways, and then we will light our glorious Roosevelt Island Christmas tree in the heart of the island there on the lawn. So it should be really fun, and I hope everybody can make it. The other one I just wanted to make mention, I don't know if Frank France is on the call or not, but we're going to do a fire prevention seminar on December 17th. It seems fitting to do something like that during the holiday season when everybody has Christmas trees, and just sort of make people more aware of proper etiquette and ways of performing fire prevention in the home. So there will be more communications with that in the coming days, but just putting it out there on the radar for everybody. Pivoting to the points that Paul wanted to touch on, I guess we'll start with the tram. There were a few items at the last meeting that we had discussed, and I said I would bring back internally to the RIOC leadership team to go over. I don't have a ton of updates on all of them. In terms of doing window coverings, we brought that up with POMA. They had some concerns, some security concerns with that, as did our PSD team, about how that would function. And then there's really no clear indication that it would necessarily solve anything. It may, it's hard to say that it would act as some type of a deterrent, and I'm also not entirely sure that we should be looking to deter ridership on the tram. And then the other one that was talked about was the cards. That one presented a whole lot of logistical challenges, just legally and how it would function. The idea of REAC handling medical records was not something that the legal department was thrilled about considering, and then ostensibly creating a pass that some could interpret as a boarding pass was problematic as well. So that one we're just not going to be able to pursue. What we are able to pursue and we are talking about is changing the tram schedule. So as everybody on this call probably knows, we've been working with DOL and POMA regarding a slowdown of the tram, given the swaying incidents that have happened over the course of the last year. It was suggested on this call if we could speed it up even just slightly to make the schedule a little easier to understand instead of every 10 and a half minutes, even if we just got it to every 10 minutes, it would be helpful in terms of planning and understanding how, the scheduling is operating. So that is something that we are going to be, and we are working with POMA and the regulators on trying to sort out and figure out as quickly as we can. We have some calls with them this week. We'll touch base with them there, and then ultimately, of course, we view that as a stopgap measure anyway. What we have to do is we have to get back to the tram moving faster, not just every 10 minutes. We want to get it back to a schedule closer to what we had before. So that is sort of a longer tail project that we're continuing to work on and have been working on for a while. But in the meantime, if we can even just get it moving a little bit faster to make the scheduling easier, I think that's something that we're really going to try to do. And, hopefully we can, it's not ultimately in our hands alone, but we will, we will work with our partners on this to try to sort it out. On the DEC, just some updates there. So as we mentioned last time, there were some incidents on the island about animal poisonings. We had the Department of Environmental Conservation come and visit the island. They, worked with us during the day to sort of see how our operations work in terms of using herbicides, pesticides, and rodenticides. They didn't find any issue with, our systems or our protocols. But of course, we're not the only ones on the island that are allowed to use those things. The buildings are also allowed to use it. And so what we did was we asked them when they came, do you guys do any outreach to sort of let community stakeholders know how, the proper methods of using these applicants? And they said they did. So what we did was we convened a meeting with the building managers and we invited the DEC to it. And we had them go over the proper use of these pesticides and herbicides. We reiterated to them the need to be thoughtful about the application. We also asked them, they don't have to, but we asked them to let us know when they're applying so that we can be made aware of it as well. So that's something that we're going to continue monitoring too. Ultimately, we just want to make sure everybody's handling these things safely, and we certainly don't want any issues with the animal populations. So we're looking at that. We're looking at more organic methods of maintaining the fields from our end. But again, that would just be the REAC end of it. The buildings, so long as they're following the rules and doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're allowed to use any legal means that they'd like. I did ask on that call with DEC because I know folks reported incidents to them. I asked, how did they, if somebody does report to them, how do they follow up on it? And the answer I got was, well, they don't really do follow up. What they kind of said was, if you want to know the outcome of any investigation, it has to be through a FOIL request. So that's the way the DEC is. And so I have to share that, but that's the way it goes. So there isn't a ton of follow-up, it seems, on their end when it comes to the outcomes of the complaints. So that's where that stands. If I can very quickly just touch on the buses. Again, still making progress, still heading in the right direction. We have the 2 new buses that are supposed to hit the island right now we're being told mid-January. That would be great. We are continually tweaking the schedule, trying to add buses where we can. especially during morning rush hour on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. We're seeing, I think the ridership levels are heaviest on those days, I guess. With work from home protocols, people still, are remote a lot on Mondays and Fridays. So we're trying to make sure that we are getting extra buses on the roads during those time periods. We know that the shuttle bus can sometimes get crowded, and so we're where we can, we're making sure that we can replace that with just a red bus. So as time goes on, ultimately the shuttle bus will become even more, supplemental, and we can just sort of catch stragglers behind the red bus and keep folks moving that way. But things are trending in the right direction. We're doing a lot better. We have a fleet manager on staff who's done great work. You can read about him in our last newsletter. There's a shameless plug for that. So yeah, that's where we are right now, and I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Brian, thank you for that. Just to follow up on the animal welfare, the poison item, I'm not sure when we left this one if it was for you or for the buildings, but big warning signs where poison's placed and better warning labels on the actual poison itself. Can
Yeah,
you discuss that at all?
yeah. So DEC regulations are you have to put those out, and so if the buildings are not putting them out properly, that would be a violation and that would be an issue. I think that's why we want to know a little bit more about what the buildings are doing when they're doing it. Again, they don't have to tell us that, but we've asked them to. But they are supposed to follow those guidelines and make sure that everything is properly indicated and marked when those things occur. So that is a regulation that's already in place and should be followed. And that was reiterated on the call with the DEC and the building managers by the DEC.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brian. Anybody on the board or in the public have a question for Brian before we let him enjoy his evening? Any questions for Brian? Last call. Anyone? Brian, record time, 10 minutes. Off you go.
Incredible. Well, everybody enjoy your evening. I hope I see everybody on Friday for the tree lighting, and if I don't, enjoy the rest of the holiday season and take care.
Thanks, Brian. I think the second item we're going to skip over this month because I don't see Brandon on the Zoom. So anybody have any community updates, things they want to post the rest of the community on any events? Anyone? Judy? I see Judy with finger up. Yes, can we please unmute Judy?
Okay, well, community updates. The historic, are you discussing the tram anymore on this meeting?
Well, that was it so far, but if you want to talk about it now, this is a good time to do it.
Yeah, well, I don't want to ruin your day, but Mr. Prickler, you put out these posters. This is an insult to the entire community of Roosevelt Island, to the visitors, to anyone. I don't know what you think this is going to accomplish, but to be greeted on the island, anyone, and seeing these posters, I don't know what you were thinking. It's not going to solve the problem. I was going to ask Brian, and I think Brian is still there. What exactly is happening at the station? What is going on? Every day you put your hand on your heart. It's like me. What is going on? Is public safety there? Is POMA there? Who is in charge? Every day I hear another story from another person.
Yeah.
I mean, who's running the show? And whose turf is it? And when is public safety there? And when is POMA there? And when are people allowed to go around? And when are people not allowed to go around? It seems, Brian, explain what's supposed to be happening.
Before Brian explains that, one question for you, Judy. Where did you get the poster from?
I took it off the shelter, the bus shelter, where you had 5 of them as people came off the tram. And there was your greeting of welcome to Roosevelt Island. This poster saying we're trampled, which is
thank you.
Insult. Yes.
Over to Brian. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, very, very quickly before I run. So the way it works, there's a POMA station attendant there all the time. That's the way it's supposed to be on the platform on the Manhattan side. PSD goes over when lines form. So what happens is they have one person, one detail for the tram. He generally is on the Roosevelt Island side, but we'll ride back and forth. When we hear word that there are lines forming, we send an additional 3 PSD officers over to do crowd control on the Manhattan side. So that's how that works. we've been clear again about, riders, elderly disabled riders who need help reaching the platform. If a line forms, they can speak with a PSD officer about it. PSD officers are trying to make more announcements about it as well when they are over there. That's something that we have asked them to do. And we've asked the POMA station attendants, quite frankly, to be a little more proactive, a little more visible, and try to be a little more helpful when it comes to those instances. But that's the way it works. When the lines form, that's when additional personnel is sent over on the Manhattan side, because that's where it happens.
Why do I keep hearing that there are people arguing and this problems and people with baby carriers, et cetera, et cetera? It doesn't seem to be getting better. Is there a written set of rules for public safety to follow? Because you have lots of officers floating in and floating out with different ideas of what the crowd control is. Is there a set protocol? Is there an absolutely set public safety protocol of who to let up, who not to let up, and how to handle people? Public safety current officers are not trained in community relations. They are not trained. They stand there. It's a terrible thing to say. You have to know how to communicate with the visitors and with the residents and people, instead of people just getting irate and very upset. It doesn't seem to work. I mean, there's no training with our public safety officers, and the POMA staff, I think, is just burnt out. They don't give a damn anymore. They've had it, and it's terrible because the first thing anyone comes, you don't have to be a tourist, you can be someone here on business, is to get all these mixed messages and things. Are there stanchions downstairs? Is there anything? There doesn't seem to be a written protocol of how to behave and how tram staff and how the public safety people. And it's nice if a line is forming for public safety, you'll send some people over. Well, that'll take a half hour or an hour. It doesn't seem to be working. There's no protocol. There's no way to make this situation. To make it at least clear to people and courteous and make people not feel that they're just being hassled and not getting home. Brian, you have an answer on behalf of REAC?
Well, I mean, the protocols in place for when the lines are forming are standard, and they've been in place for a while there. I can always bring back to PSD the need for better communication. I think that's actually something that they have talked about internally and are trying to do a little more of and explaining. Look, ultimately it's, the officer's discretion, to help that out. That's how it has to be from a legal standpoint. But, the officers, I think, are very accommodating and certainly try to be as accommodating as they can to elderly and disabled riders who need a little extra assistance reaching the tram platform. But yeah, I mean, better. I understand the POMA station attendants and everybody at POMA might be a little burnt out, but everybody's a little burnt out, and even if a little more visibility on the platform, making sure that we're announcing a little more that seating is, priority seating for seniors and disabled is important. That's something that we're pushing, and we're hoping that we can see some improvements on that end.
I have to tell you, the other day, a friend said to me, she got on the tram at night, they turned the light off. Why'd they turn the light off? So people could take better pictures.
Yeah, that actually came up on another email. That's not correct. I checked with POMA about it. They shut the lights off in the evening to preserve the batteries. So and apparently this has also been protocol for years. Yeah. They'll turn the lights on during boarding and offloading, and then while in flight, they'll keep the lights off because apparently the lights suck up a lot of the juice. The good news on that end is POMA has told us that they are working on upgrading the battery systems to have, more powerful battery that have greater capacity, which will, I think, allow them to keep the lights on more. But they're not shutting the lights off for the benefit of tourists.
And one other thing, I just forgot. We had all these at the public REAC meeting a month or so ago. The acting director of POMA was talking about all the new communications and all of the things that they're going to be putting in. Have these started?
They have started. They've been actually doing it on and off for quite some time, replacing aging components. They added new fiber to the system and stuff like that. Bottom line, though, is the whole system is probably going to have to be replaced. The system that's in place now is the same one that's been in place since the tram was rebuilt in 2010. A lot has changed in the telecom space in that 15 years. not the least of which is there are stronger cellular signals, and there's a lot more cellular signals, and it creates interference. So ultimately, the way it seems right now is we're going to just have to replace the whole system. We are pushing them for a timetable on that. We want it to be done expeditiously. We don't want any more, hangups in solving this communications interruption system. And so it has gotten better, but the system still needs probably just to be overhauled. But we've seen a precipitous drop in the instances of swaying over the last couple of months.
Last but not least, signs on the not on the seats that say senior and disabled, signs on the window where people see it. I know you put a sign that says that seniors, and someone puts their butt on the sign. It doesn't do a darn bit of good. I don't care about the visibility, about not being able to see the window. The signs have to be on the windows at eye level so people will know not to sit there, because it's infuriating that the people just plop themselves down, especially kids, and no one's about to get up. So the signs have to be big and obvious on the window, because that's the only way it's going to help. And also, I know the tram attendants are tired and they're disgusted, etc. But something has to be done to motivate them and motivate POMA to make sure that the seniors and disabled and everyone are recognized. Because I don't know, people come, I see the visitors coming all weekend. They love coming to the island. They love the island. They don't care if they waited online 2 hours. What can I tell you? But we have to make it a much more welcoming place, no matter what the circumstances is. We have to improve communications, because what's going on with my neighbors grumbling and screaming and yelling, I can't take this anymore.
Let me talk with Palma about that seat sign idea.
Yeah, please. I don't care if they can't see out the window. They can't do the picture. Maybe the universal signs that say this. And that's all for the evening.
Judy, anything else for Brian before he goes?
Excuse me?
Anything else for Brian before he goes?
Is the kid still screaming, Brian?
No, but I'm on the precipice of missing bath time, so I need to need to move it along.
Let's move on quickly. Thank you, Judy. Let's go on to Jimmy, please. Jimmy Starachi.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Most of what you're saying, Judy, I agree with. It's very frustrating, and it's aggravating to feel the way that I think our neighbors feel about the tourist situation. Although I will say the flyers, I think were pretty catchy, and I think they got the attention of a lot of people on the island. And I think that was the point, was to get people active. If you don't get them active, they don't speak up, and we don't get the kind of change that we're hoping to get. So in that sense, I thought they worked. But going back to the actual experience on the tram, Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, Tanya and I and the kids went for a bite to eat, a snack in the city, and everybody came from different directions. We all met at the very luxurious Shake Shack, and we had burgers. Not my choice, the kids, but it's fine. I think it's a good burger. Then we walked to the tram. We had a nice quiet walk on the eve of a holiday. And when we got to the tram, it was absolute pandemonium. So I don't want to add to the complaining and the moaning about what everybody is experiencing, but I will say it was pretty awful. All of my family was separated from each other in the pandemonium to get the best photograph. There was no consideration for not only their fellow tourists, or what feels like even their company, meaning the people they were with, and certainly they didn't give a damn about the kids. So, I have only one kid that's not 6 feet, okay? Other than myself, I'm not a kid. But that kid was pushed into the crowd. And I texted Paul and I texted Rick, and we were chatting about something earlier in the day, and I said, this is absolutely horrible. I said, at some point in the cold, when people are waiting a long time, you will hear about fights. They will happen. It's not a good setup. Coincidentally, the week before, Tanya and I and the family were in Colombia. We did another tram ride in Colombia to go to the top of a mountain in Bogota, where my wife's family lives. And just to keep it short, That tram is maybe 1/3 the size of our tram. We waited an hour and a half to get on it because we had tickets to get to the mountain, not to take the tram. The tram was actually one form of getting to the top. The other form is a funicular. That was the shorter line, was the tram. So we took the tram, and it was the same thing, shoving, pushing, and chaos. So I think really what we're looking at, everybody, is simply the age of social media and phones. I don't know if we're ever going to get back from it, but I do think anything we can do to be cordial and accommodating to people is wonderful. But on the second hand, the fact that so many neighbors have to bypass the tram, and who do I blame for this? We don't blame anybody. There's nobody to blame. What I experienced when we got off the tram on Wednesday night was even more bizarre. The unloading, the dumping of riders, which took place, and I say dumping not by the tram operators, but by the people on it. And they flooded the gates and went right back in to what looked like a comfortable tram ride as we were landing. When I walked out, I said to my wife, I said, can you believe it? I mean, look at this. And they were rushing in to get back in. Anyway, I'm just commenting because I think it's a fair frustration that you're experiencing, Judy. And I know you're there at the landing base more than I am. I just don't take it. But I don't know where we're going to go from here. I think that we have to adjust to the state of what we're dealing with in social media and do the best we can. But I do think, the flyer and trying to get awareness and trying to get the neighbors to get what they need, which is some resolution and some way to manage this. Because I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing going forward. I think it's going to be worse. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for taking
Thank you, Jimmy.
time to listen. Thank you.
And welcome back from Colombia, Jimmy. Thank you. Let's just say good night now to Bryant. I promised you that you'd be gone
Thanks,
before
Bryant.
7.
All right, thanks, everybody. Take care.
Can we please unmute Marie?
Hi. Well, unfortunately, my question was for Bryant, so
That's okay. Ask anyway. I can give you his email address in the chat.
yeah, okay, great.
What was the question about?
Yeah, the question was actually about the posting of public safety officers in Duane Reade. I'm just curious as to what's going on there. There is at least one, if not two, public safety officers in Duane Reade, ostensibly acting as private security every single hour they're open. So I'm just curious as to what that is about, because that doesn't seem right.
So, Marie, thank you for that. I'm sorry, you did mention that before this meeting, I remember. So I'm sorry I let Bryant go then, but I did promise him he should.
Sure.
I'm going to put through Rose Bryant's email address in the chat. And I'll put mine as well. If you could please email him and copy me. He's very responsive. He will get back to us tomorrow, I promise you.
Will do.
So,
thank you.
And thanks for coming today, Marie. I'm sorry I didn't get you to speak to him directly.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody else have questions before we move on to the final item? So I'm delighted to introduce Alex Barrett. Alex here from Hudson. I'm not sure, Alex, if it's Hudson Companies or how to address it properly, but if you could please unmute Alex. Alex can talk to us about Hudson itself, but also Riverwalk and other related matters.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, thanks, Alex. Over to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Barrett from the Hudson Companies, and we, in partnership with the related companies, are the developers of the Riverwalk complex. And we're proud to announce that Riverwalk Heights, the 9th of 9 properties, has been completed and is just starting to be occupied now. I could tell you a little bit about the building, and should I give a little bit of background about Hudson? Is that helpful?
Yeah, please. That'd be lovely. Thank you.
So we are residential real estate developers founded in 1986, Manhattan-based, and the vast majority of our work over that period has been here in the 5 boroughs. We're just now starting to expand a little bit into Westchester, New Jersey, but primarily 5 boroughs. And in the late 90s, we competed for and were awarded an RFP from the state to develop a series of 9 buildings, multifamily and mixed-use buildings on Roosevelt Island, which is known as the Riverwalk Complex. Riverwalk Heights is the 9th and final, as I mentioned. It is 357 units. So I'm looking at my cheat sheet here to make sure I get the unit count right. And it is mixed use in that also contained in the building is a small office for REOC. So of those 357 units, 104 of them are owned by Memorial Sloan Kettering. They also own some units in a few other Riverwalk buildings. And then the remaining 253 are market rate rental buildings ranging from studios of about 460 square feet to 2 bedrooms of about 1,000 square feet. We started leasing sometime in sort of late August, early September. And at this point, as far as I can tell, we're about 1/3 leased of those 253 units. And we'll continue leasing probably into early next year until the building's fully occupied. Building's about 30 stories. I think it's about 300,000 square feet, has a handful of amenities that you might find in some of the other Riverwalk buildings. Fitness center, lounges, dog washing station, a few other nice amenities like that. I think that's about it. If anybody had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone have questions for Alex while he's here with us? You have to raise your hand electronically. Rick, please. Is Rick unmuted? It looks muted to me still. Rose, there we go.
Yep. Okay. Hi, Alex. Hey, I'm just wondering if Hudson Related has such a long history on Roosevelt Island over the last 20 years. And so building 9 is the final building of this particular project. Are there any plans for anything else on Roosevelt Island in the future?
Well, thanks, Rick. That's a great question, and we would certainly love to. We're really proud to be long-term members of the community and really proud of the work that we've built there. So we're certainly eager to continue the relationship. I think the next opportunity might be on the Cornell Tech campus, where Hudson also built a dormitory for Cornell Tech called the House at Cornell Tech. It's still the world's largest residential passive house building, so we're quite proud of that as well. Aside from potential, phase 2 of Cornell Tech's expansion, which is still very preliminary, I don't know of any other opportunities to continue development on Roosevelt Island. So we'd certainly be eager to if the opportunities arose, but nothing that I'm aware of at this time.
Thank you.
Can we please unmute Judy?
Excuse me, you caught me eating my potato pancake. Okay. Build this new building. When are you contemplating finishing the parkland next to it, which is or
Great question. The Commons East. Yes, I'm sorry, I did not come equipped with a completion or estimated completion date of that, but I can ask the contractors and send that information back to Paul if that is helpful.
Yes, I'll send that on to Judy.
Will you also be rebuilding the path in back of your buildings between 480 and all of that path is in terrible condition?
Yes, the Commons East was the staging ground for the construction, so we know it got abused quite a bit during construction, and that will all be restored. So let me find out the estimated completion time of that work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Any other questions for Alex? Any other business tonight, folks? I promise we keep these meetings tight, so I think we're going to have a nice record 35 minutes. I know everyone enjoy their Monday evening. So thank you, Alex, for coming to speak to us all.
My
If there are
pleasure.
no other questions, I wish you all a good night and happy holidays.